Well, the military uses drones to prowl the skies, but unmanned aircraft are also finding uses in the commercial and civilian world. Now, Greg Walker from the University of Alaska Fairbanks joins us this evening to talk about the current research being done on unmanned aircraft and how they're being used. Greg, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Mike.
So, Greg, we've heard all about unmanned aircraft and drones being used for the military. Now, you're researching how these kind of aircrafts can be transferred to civilian uses. What have you found out so far?
Right. So this technology, was developed really for the military applications, and we're finding civil and commercial scientific purposes for it here at the university. What we're finding, though, is a lot of the payloads that were originally built for military, because they had a specific mission, and some of the science applications and some of these civil purposes need different payloads, different instrumentation to make them useful. But, there's a lot of applications here in Alaska where safety is a concern for aviation. We could fly these aircraft potentially much less hazardous to pilots. There's even some applications where, the noise concerns of a manned aircraft might scare wildlife, that we're able to not disturb the animals. It's been pretty interesting endeavor. We have a diverse set of customers looking from everything from marine wildlife like stellar sea lions to oil spill response, trying to detect leaks of gas from oil pipelines, things like that.
While we've been talking, we've been looking at some of the video from the university. Pretty fascinating stuff. When the Renda was trying to bring fuel to Nome, I know your group was involved in that. What role did you play, and what did you learn from that experience?
Sure. So we went up to Nome, and the tasks we really took on were trying to understand the sea ice right outside the harbor. The ship, the Renda, couldn't get all the way into the port, and so they were going to have to offload fuel, roughly a mile over across the sea ice to the shore, to the headers, where they could actually pump it into the city of Nome. And that sea ice could change. In fact, that sea ice could break loose with offshore wind. There's hazards out there. So we were using the aircraft to help scout routes to go, routes to run the hose, where would you stage your equipment. We could give them elevation data on the ice dynamics, help them spot where to put the ship so that they would really minimize their efforts in trying to get the hoses to shore.
So, Greg, quickly, the thought of putting cameras on a remote-controlled unmanned aircraft brings up concerns in a lot of people's minds about privacy and individual rights. How is that being addressed?
That has been a real problem in the last year or so. It's become very aware across the United States, across the world, really, about how are you using these technology when it's, is it paparazzi use, armed unmanned aircraft with law enforcement, things like this that people are kicking around. The good news for Alaska, though, is that the operations that we're looking at, most of these operations in Alaska, don't really have a privacy concern. We're out in the middle of the Bering Sea or the Arctic Ocean or the Aleutian Islands, and it's giving Alaska right now a great opportunity to expand and get even that much further into the integration and ahead of the rest of the country, which is growing economically up here in the state.
Greg Walker with UAF's Alaska Center for Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration. Thanks for joining us on the 5 o'clock report.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Pretty fascinating stuff. All right.